Phails. He's on the ocean without any sails, a sinking ship without a pail. Whoa, Phails. Phails. Life ain't always about the sink or swim. Life ain't always about chasing the wind. Whoa, Phails.
Welcome to Phails. Today I'm going to fail at photography. My guest is Garrett. You want to wave to the people, Cole?
Hey, how's it going?
That's Cole, baby. Cole's going to teach me about photography. Let's just get right into it. I'm going to start with Phil fails 5 questions.
Okay.
The idea here is that I'm going to invite in photography into my life. I mean, I'm already doing it with these cameras to some extent, but I'll do it in the way that you teach me.
Okay.
I'll take on your kind of technique and the things that have been meaningful to you, and I'll practice them, and then I'll execute on them, and we'll see what happens when I fail at photography.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. You know, maybe I'll take cameras out to the crag and or wherever, maybe whatever comes from this, I'll have a practice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I told you about the Tantra permissionist that I interviewed yesterday. This morning, I started with my Tantra practice. I did a 30-minute Tantra practice this morning.
Really?
And I'll do that every day for 2 months.
Oh, wow.
So it'll be the same with you and I and photography.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah. Phil fails 5. Okay, first question. How would someone fail at photography?
How would someone fail at photography? That's a really big question. That's like a very broad question that I don't know. That could be answered so many different ways. That could be answered technically. That could be answered creatively. Yeah, that could honestly there's a lot to unpack in just that question. So I'd ask a question back to you. What would be something that you'd be more interested in technically, creatively, or more like I'd say emotionally even.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the question, it informs how big this is. The art form of photography. There's emotionality, there's technique, there's creativity. What do you think? I guess maybe start with like a beginner.
Okay.
What would you think of as beginners failing as they're coming into this art form?
Yeah. I mean, I think, man, I don't really, the way that I look at photography, of course, I learned the technical aspects of it really early on. And then I feel like there's never a moment where you're not learning. Like I'm still gradually learning technical stuff. But I think like the main thing that I could see in a lot of the like fellow photographers or just people that I've worked in the industry for the past, what is this? I think this is like 13 years, I think. Something like that. 13, 14 years. I can't really recall off the top of my head. Is, I think the reason why you're doing it. And I think that's like when I see a photographer coming into the industry and they're in it, they want to learn everything, and they're just like, they're hungry to like get that, but like they don't have that passion for it, I guess. And I guess that would be my answer, lack of passion. And I think you could say that with anything, is like the main reason someone's not going to succeed is because they're not like putting their all into one thing. I think we've spoke about this before. Like I'm a very heavy believer of you could be what is that saying? The master of none.
Oh yeah. Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades is master. Yeah. And so it's like, I'm a big believer of like putting my all into one thing.
The second part of that saying is oftentimes people stop there, but it's a jack of all trades, master of none I'm a paraphrase, but is better than a master of one.
Okay.
The second part of that phrase actually kind of changes it to being a jack of all trades. Someone that's able to learn a lot of things has a lot of value.
Yeah. So
and I imagine you do that as a photographer.
Yeah, I mean, in photography.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that I think the lack of passion is probably the main thing. Yeah.
Lack of
like
passion?
I've like, especially in the industry, I've seen a lot of people that work in studios that I've been at, and like the last studio I worked at, I was there for I think 8 years just working in the studio and just putting my time in and learning a lot in those 8 years and building like a repertoire of like technical compared to and then compared to creativity. But then you work with people who come in and out of the field because they come into photography and they think that it's just they think it's easily, they think they can grasp it easily, and they think it's like a trade where they can just hop in, learn it, master it, and then they're successful. And I think that photography is just it's something that is just so like not that. It's like one of those things where I guess it's from the outside looking in, you think it's going to be easy to learn, but yeah, it may be easy to like master the technical side of taking a picture, but then it could be a real shitty picture, you know?
Yeah.
So, so it's just like, I don't know.
That's that creative side.
Yeah,
that's like the framing. Like, what are you doing? The golden mean or the golden rule or whatever.
Rule of thirds. Yeah.
Things like that. When you're talking about the technical, I'm assuming you're talking about aperture, like f-stop, shutter speed, the ISO, those type of things. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much like what you're working with on these cameras right now. It's like with video, it's a lot different. With photo, you have a lot more, I say, push of creativity with the technical side. Whereas video, you're kind of like you're stuck in your box, and then you have to think creatively outside of that box. Whereas photography, you can really push the camera itself. I feel like videography, you push outside that box and using tools externally and doing all that kind of crazy stuff. Whereas photography, you can use that shutter speed creatively, and the aperture, you can use it creatively. I mean, even the ISO, everything you can kind of like think, in a creative way rather than thinking a technical way. So it kind of all bleeds together in a sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Second question, how do you think a new photographer, someone coming into the art form, what would be the behaviors that would lead to success for them?
Yeah, definitely passion, definitely patience, a lot of patience. Back to your whole mantra over here, accepting that you're gonna fail a lot. Pretty much. Yeah, I'd say just drive, like really getting out there and just shooting all the time. I think the one thing that helped me be successful in that career was just constantly shooting. Yeah. And it's something that today I think that like even right now I think that I'm lacking that, even though like I'm working as a photographer, I'm making a living as a photographer, like that's how I pay the bills, but like on my free time I feel like I should still be shooting.
Really?
Well, yeah, and I think that I built that from like at a young age, like really wanting to get into it, and it was like a more of like oh, just hop in the car, throw my camera in there, I'm just gonna go out and like get some cool photos. And like as a young age, like they could be shitty photos, they could have been good photos, but the fact that I was out there doing it,
right,
like that made all the difference. And even today I feel like I should still be doing that. And like even this morning, like I was like, you go through those creative spurs of where you get an idea and you're like, all right, like I'm gonna go do that, like, and then they just kind of keep flowing. I don't know.
There's this way with the tone of your voice, like when you said I should still be doing that, it's like there's a question you're giving yourself. Should you still be doing that? Do you notice how the frequency went up a little bit?
Yeah.
And so it's like, do you believe that you should still be doing that? Like I have the question in my tone. You notice when I said that, do you believe you should still be doing that? There's a way that kind of you can tell on yourself. I imagine this is an assumption. Yeah. You really think you should still be doing that?
I mean, I think I should. I think that there's a lot of difference in like the industry of some people. They go to work, they take photos,
Yeah.
And that's their work.
Right.
And they go home and they separate it. And then some people, it's like it bleeds into their life, and like some people, it's like their persona, and I think that like with anything, my personality, I get drawn to different things, and so like we climb together a lot, and so it's like that, like I may really want to go out and like work on a photography project that I'm like really been like passionate about and thinking about and trying to wrap my head around and saying, all right, I want to create this project. But Philip hits me up and wants to climb on Saturday, and I'm like, I really want to climb today instead. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. You got so many things in the bucket that you're passionate about right now. You just kind of keep hopping around them.
Right. That makes sense. I notice as we're talking, because of our relationship in the climbing world, I think about this. It's like Zen in the art of motorcycle maintenance. I'm thinking of this photography and the art of climbing. I think about getting better at climbing mileage on the rock, right? Being on the rock, just getting more mileage out there. And then I think of confidence through failure. Like if the better you get at climbing, you're going to approach and attempt a route more times before you succeed at it. The harder the route is, the better professional climbers could do a route 50, 100 times before they're successful.
Oh yeah.
So I just kind of start thinking of, it's interesting how I orient myself to you as we discuss this other art form.
Yeah. It is interesting how much relatable experiences in life you can relate climbing to photography or to videography or just anything. Like you put your passion towards it, you're going to fail a bunch of times, and then you succeed one time.
Heck yeah.
I think that's the funny thing. And that's an interesting thing, because like climbing is one of those things, like you said, you put your time in over and over and over to succeed for maybe 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then it's done. And then you just get that spark of like some sort of euphoria on that succeed, and it makes you want to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And that's like the same thing with photography. Like you're out there, you're searching for that one shot that is going to make you really happy, and then you get it, and then you want another one. Yeah. And
it's like the lighting, everything has to be perfect for that perfect shot. Just like in climbing, where your muscles and your energy level, your confidence, there's so many things that come into that. Third question is, do you have a motto or an ethic or a way you view photography that you could share? Like, how do you kind of
in like a succession way, or in like a just like general, like this is how I view photography?
Yes.
I don't know.
Whichever one comes to mind. Like whichever one you prefer to answer of those two.
That's so interesting. A motto of photography.
Well, maybe I'm not asking the question correctly. Like, how do you view photography? What is when you grab the camera, like what happens for you is you have this camera as an extension. Maybe it's an extension of yourself, of your eyes, or like I could think about it how I could just BS it. But how do you view photography, or how do you view that practice and art form?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different question for different avenues. At work, it's an extension of myself. It is an extension, but at the same time, it's basically a tool at work. Like it is like so many different things have to go right to make sure that I'm delivering something to my client that is my employer. And so the camera is a tool, the lighting is a tool, and then the photography itself is basically like my craft. So at work, I would say it's a craft. But that's interesting because I also, like, for the past, this would be my 11th year. So I also shoot weddings. So I shoot weddings. Gosh, I used to shoot like 30 weddings a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
as a second shooter, or you?
No, I have my own business. I ran it for the past 11 years.
So you hire other shooters and you're organizing the whole show?
No, I do it myself. So it's just
one man show.
Well, 2-man show. I hire a second photographer with me. But like for the past 11 years, I was doing that as I was working a full-time studio job.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so nowadays, like this year, I only have like maybe 5 weddings booked. And so it's just kind of like when I view that, photography is more of a like, it's more of a like a documentation process. So I view photography more as just like a like I'm like just documenting what I see in a sense. So rather than like having a trade and having a skill, like that all stuff just needs to be in my head. Like I don't think about the technical stuff too much. I'm more like thinking of like how can I live in the moment of like capturing like exactly what I'm seeing in a sense.
Yeah.
I don't know how to.
So that's work, more like studio photography, and then weddings, which seems to be this more documentation of what's going on for folks. And then I imagine there's a third that we haven't discussed, which would be some kind of art form.
Yeah, I'd say that's more of like my personal work. So like I shoot a lot of film. So I have like maybe 5 different like film cameras that are like a few 35 millimeter film cameras. I have a few medium format film cameras.
Really?
And like,
Where do you even do they sell film? How do you even get that stuff?
Yeah. So like and I also, it's interesting because when I got into photography, I was shooting on film. Okay. So like when I was in high school, I was taking college classes while I was in high school because that was the community college had a dark room. And so that's like, I was learning all of that stuff. And then, but right as I was getting into photography was really when everything was transferring to digital. It's like when the first digital camera came out in like 2003 or something like that. And so, but before, like even in 2003, everybody was still shooting film, like heavy, like main photographers that are like getting covers on Time magazine. Like they're still shooting film up to like 2000, maybe 10 or something, because the quality at digital just wasn't there. Like film is just like, it's just hard to beat. Like I still consistently will see something and would rather shoot it on film than on my digital camera because I know that I'm going to like portray it in a certain way because the camera is it just works differently. The way you look at color, the way you look at light and shadow, everything just looks differently.
That makes sense. 4th question. What kind of... I improv these questions, by the way.
Nice.
I'm thinking like, what would be some daily practices for someone that wanted to start doing photography? If someone had like a daily routine of photography, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest one nowadays would be just like documenting. Like just document your life. Like I think that's like for somebody who's getting a photography and doesn't know, like say you don't know where you want to go, like say you want to do portraiture or say you want to do journalism or say you want to do studio work, like you just don't know. I would say just start off just documenting your day. Like wake up, like, I don't know, take a picture of something. Like, I mean, you don't even have to own a camera. You can use your phone.
Right.
Like you don't even need, like the phone cameras are already like crazy nowadays. Like you could just shoot everything on your phone.
Yeah.
I think that if you want to learn photography well, I would say shoot everything black and white.
Because then you're focusing on lighting. Is that why black and white is better, or what? Yeah, what's the advantage?
Yeah, I mean you're focusing on lighting, but like color, you're taking color out of the equation. So like black and white photography is like some people master it and do it really well, but and then some people master color and do color really well, because once you add color into the equation, like you're adding a bunch of new just things that you have to deal with. Like, does red look good with orange in the back. I don't know, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so shooting black and white, I'd say you're more worried about tonal, like you're more worried about grayscales, you're more worried about composition. I'd say composition is probably the main thing, is you're focused on how you're framing the photo because you're not thinking about color.
Right.
So you're like, oh, does this look like a good photo to you when it's in black and white? It may or it may not. And then it gets your brain to really think about like, oh, like now I'm really thinking that way. That way, when you eventually add color into the equation, you have those like compositional, like brain work kind of like already in.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So document your life, shoot in black and white.
Yeah.
Fifth question. And I find myself, I say these are improv, but I find myself asking this fifth one has been pretty the same. And it's maybe a little woo-woo or a little like heady, but what question would you ask yourself as a photographer starting out, interested in photography, asking a master of photography? What would be a question that you would ask? Now, being a master yourself, take yourself back to the beginning of your journey. What would you ask a master photographer?
Oh, what would I ask a master photographer if I was just starting out?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, am I taking myself back to my when I first started, and then say I was sitting with myself, or if I was sitting with like a master of photography?
Yeah,
like
maybe
a,
Ansel Adams or something like.
Yeah.
You, as a young photographer, passionate about it, what kind of question would you ask? Because now you're a master yourself.
Yeah.
What would you ask? Either one of those. Ask yourself as a master, or ask
Yeah, I mean that's. Yeah, and I think Ansel Adams is an interesting example. I feel like if he was sitting across from me, I would ask him like. I'd probably ask him like which photo meant the most to him, and then I'd probably ask him like I would ask him why he does it. I think that would be the number. Like I think that'd be the top question. Like why? I mean, because by that time, I forget how old. Like must have been I don't know what age, but that much years of experience in because I don't even have the amount of years that he had in his field.
Right.
And so asking somebody who's in their maybe 70s or something in photography who've had 30 plus years of photography. I think it's just why did you do that for 30 years? Why are you still doing that?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, me personally, I don't see an end to it. I don't see myself stopping it. I don't think I ever will. I can see myself with a 30-year career or something like that. At least I hope. But that's I'm sure that's a question that I'll still be figuring out, you know?
Right. Yeah. Man, I have the chills. I have an emotional response to that. You sharing how you would approach Ansel Adams and thinking through what photo means the most to you. For some reason that really struck me.
Well, because his work is insane.
Yeah.
The fact that he shot large format film. So large format is, I don't know if you've ever seen those cameras that it's just a big square.
Yeah.
And then another big square. And there's literally just an accordion in the middle. And those cameras are just so unique because you're shooting on a plate, a negative plate. And you're just you're throwing the cloth over your head.
Right.
The image is upside down on the screen. So it's the way that it goes through the lens, it flips the image upside down.
Camera obscura.
Yeah. And then you also have the front and the back move up and tilted and down because you can shift the way that say you're shooting mountains and the mountains look, you know how you take a picture of a skyscraper and it skews in?
Yes.
You can correct that on those cameras and make it straight.
Whoa.
And so it's just, but to be Ansel Adams and lugging that thing in Yosemite up onto a cliff.
Oh man.
I don't know. I'm sure there's either a photo that he's super sentimental about because of the journey it took him to get that photo, or there's just one, maybe he just stopped on the side of the road and got this amazing, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. I'm adding 2 more questions because I can. What photo means the most to you?
That's a tough one.
Does one come to mind?
Yeah, a few come to mind. Yeah.
If we could share it, I could probably fly it in as we're sharing this podcast and share those photos with the folks. But maybe you could just describe it or what it was or why it means the most to you.
Yeah, there's one photo that probably means the most to me, and I can't find it right now.
What?
Well, because I know we're a very downgraded, low quality version of it is, but I must have been like 14 or 15. And it's mainly because like that, I feel like that photo was like the first photo I got where I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Like this, like I can't believe I got this.
Yeah.
And it was like I grew up skateboarding, and so like I'm in a skateboard family. My brother skateboards, my dad skateboards. So I just grew up every day skating with my friends, and that's how I found photography. Like I was just like, my dad had a camera, and I just took it and I just brought it on every skate trip.
Yeah.
And one of my buddies was just like a lot better than us, just really good skateboarder. And I just remember we went to the staircase, and he did the trick's called a frontside flip. So you ollie off of the staircase, and you basically do a kick flip. So you flip the board and you turn a 180 all in one motion.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like I brought my camera, and he did the trick, and I got the picture, but it was filmed, so like I can't see if I got the picture or not. So it was just like all right, like taking photos as the day goes on.
You're just shooting a bunch of photos.
Yeah, shooting a bunch of photos, and then you get the film back, and then you see the picture, and you're just like, oh my gosh,
I got this.
Yeah, and you're just like, this is so cool.
Who was it?
Do you remember his name? Yeah, it was my friend Matt. Yeah, he lives in California still.
And he did a front side flip. Down some stairs.
Down a double set. So it was like 4 flat 4. So in the town I grew up in, like a kind of like a suburban town in California, and so it was like there's not a whole lot of like street skating out there, and so like that spot was like a well-known spot in the town, and so it just felt cool to like in the skating community like know these like kind of iconic things that are in this, and like your friend that does this thing that's like it's big news to like all of us, like all of our friends are just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did this. And just to have the photo,
the evidence.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's like a, wow, like this is history. Like I captured it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel excitement. You sharing it, and I can almost envision it. He's in the air.
He's in the air. Yeah.
And he's like the board is maybe in.
It's mid flip under his feet, and he's literally turning. His hands are up in the air, and it's
It's happening. Oh, that's so. I feel excitement. It's palatable. I hope we can find that picture, and I'd love to share it.
Yeah, I know we're a low quality images.
Heck yeah. And 6th question, you probably see this one coming, is why do you do it? Hey, it's
yeah. I mean it's a valid question. Yeah, I think I told myself after I like graduated like schooling in photography, and I like started working in the industry, and I wasn't like for some reason right after I got out of schooling, I was working in the photo industry like in LA, like kind of like in the like I guess production, because like LA is like a very like I don't know, it's just like a scene. I like wasn't having fun.
You weren't having fun in LA.
No, I did not.
Doing
like
photography.
It. Yeah.
What was the job like?
Well,
what,
I wasn't.
What were you doing?
Well, that was the thing, is like I wasn't doing photography. Like I was assisting for like a big name photographer. So like every day I was going into his studio and just like working on his images and like helping him. And like that's back in like that was like maybe 2010 or 2011. Like back in those days, that was kind of the career path that like you took as a photographer before like social media and all this stuff is like becoming a thing where you don't really have to do that anymore. So you would go to somebody who's a master at their craft, and you would assist them for so many years or something until you learned the skills. And then but at the same time, you would also be gaining a lot of connections through that as well, because you'd be meeting people also in the industry, and then you would start to build your repertoire in the photography community, and then you'd go off and do your own thing.
Right.
And I just didn't like it. And I think it was just the LA scene and the photographer I was working for. It was just one of those scenes where like you think about like being on set, and then there used to be this stigma of like angry photographers, like you're on set and you move the light the wrong way and he's like, "What are you doing?" Yeah, he starts yelling at you.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that was a thing, but it was. And I didn't like it. And so I picked up and I moved up. I moved a few cities up where my brother was living, and I just like got a job at Jamba Juice. Wasn't working, and like left the whole photography thing and just like was like, all right, I just need to restart. And then I started like shooting weddings, and then I started like working in the studio, and I started having fun. And I told myself, once I stop having fun, like that's when it's done.
Yeah.
And so I think that like so far right now, that's kind of my answer to the question, is just like, because it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that right now, that's as simple as like as I have it. And that's so far, that's kind of like where I've kept it, is like, as long as I'm having fun,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna keep doing this. And interestingly enough, like like you're having fun, you're interested in it, and as long as you put the time in, you always get something back.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of where I've been.
Yeah. That's good. Great answer. You're following your passion, you're following your excitement, and it's fun for you.
Yeah.
You got abused in one of those guys abused, yelled at you aggressively and stuff in LA?
Man, I got some crazy so he I don't need to be naming any names.
Yeah, don't name any names
but,
here, but what happened? Crazy story.
So he lived in Calabasas, which is like the area where like he lived in the same neighborhood as like Jessica Simpson,
The Valley,
and like like where all those rich celebrities lived. And he was inside of that scene, and he was a photographer, and he like accepted me as an intern. And so I was just like, yeah, like I just want to learn, just want to get my feet in there. But being the intern, who I eventually made money with him, which was good, but like I was doing all the shit work, like the move the lighting here, move this here. Eventually I was pretty much setting up the whole, like, all right, here's the scene, here's my camera, let me set his settings for him, let me do all the technical stuff, let me get it all dialed for him, hand him the camera, then he's gonna do all the photos. Which, there's a craft to that too. Right. But I mean, I was in the ocean in the cold water holding stuff. I don't know. There's some days where there was nothing to do. So it's actually a funny story. He had a gopher problem at his house. So his studio was at his house, like his big, like kind of mansion house. And there was no shoots that day, and he had a gopher problem. And so he had holes in his yard, and he handed me a bag of, like paprika or chili powder or something, because that's how you can get rid of them. You just pour it all down the hole. And so I'm walking around the yard just pouring like chili powder down these holes. and then I'm also out there, and then I'm pouring it, and then I'm like, oh, like my eye itches. And then I'm just like out there, just kind of like this, like eyes like tearing up and everything. Yeah. And then like those are the moments where I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah. Like, what am I doing here? Right. Yeah, stuff like that. He used to have a what are those small dogs? Like a Shih Tzu. I can't remember what the small dogs were. Yeah. But man, we would go into these really nice designer fashion stores in Malibu or something. and his dog would take a shit like in the middle of these storms. And I'd be like, oh dang it, I gotta go pick that up. So I essentially turned into like an assistant to him. And that's when I like was like, nah, I'm out of here.
Like, this isn't what I signed up for.
No, like I wasn't I wasn't learning anything. I was learning how to I was just helping him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I lived in LA. I don't know if I shared this with you, but I lived in LA, and when I did commercial music production, first thing I did is go out there and I did what you're talking about. I worked for folks, and I worked for a handful of folks as a composer's assistant, and you would do all the things like the cable access TV shows they wouldn't want to do. You'd write music for it, for the music libraries, or you would do the sessions in the studio, or you would, you know, mix down stems, or you would interact with the folks to get things going. I remember this one job I had was out in Malibu, and I would drive an hour to get at this job, but the guy was a get. It was a good get. He was like a famous guy. And it was like, okay, but he was also like, he wasn't doing a lot of work. He was maybe at the tail end of his career, or just leaning back on his laurels, however they say that. And I remember, I guess he still wanted an assistant. So I was out there selling stuff of his on eBay. And like, I was just literally doing nothing related to audio or being a composer at all. Just sitting in his $1 million studio outside of his, you know, $1 million house in Malibu. Just kind of, I don't know what the heck I was doing.
Just hoping for an in.
Just hoping that something would happen where I could learn and grow and start to, you know, get in there.
Yeah. I mean, I will say there's something about that though that is like it's like, yeah, it sucks that like maybe you have done that or I have done that, but it's just like it does show the hunger of like you're like committed, like you really want to like you want something out of it, you know?
Yeah. I still remember showing up at this dude's Malibu home the first time and thinking like, what am I doing? What is this going to be? With so much excitement and passion and curiosity, and just, I thought I had made it. Like, I'm showing up.
You're in Malibu.
It was in Malibu. This was like right down the street from, I don't know the names, but famous people lived in this little area of Malibu, and it was extreme.